Hello, thank you. A real pleasure to be here in Buenos Aires with all of you. And the PowerPoint has corrupted. There we go. um, but very excited to be here and to be sharing with you Lollipop Racing. It is a first of its kind, and we just launched it. So I'm going to be sharing with you some details into the background of what it is, how we're transforming storytelling, and really how we're leveraging blockchain to really engage today's audiences. So first off, what is Lollipop? Why did we choose that name? We get that quite often. For those that are motorsport fans, there is a very famous job, which is this guy you see here holding this stick that says brakes on or off. It's a very important role. It allows the pit crew to communicate with the driver when to come out of the pit. A lot of accidents have happened because of that, but we chose the word lollipop as a way to capture general audiences, ask the question of what is Lollipop, and really speak to F1 fans. So at the core, Lollipop is essentially a groundbreaking streaming series where we're creating interactive storytelling across episodics, and really bringing interactivity in a first of its kind experience by connecting the users to the blockchain through parts and player passes, which we'll get into in a bit. But before we go too far, let's just watch the teaser that just launched. And this is the first kind of exploration of how we're using blockchain and content.
When you and the car are one.
I'm going to start it over because the sound was off. There we go.
There is a stillness, a sort of peace when you know you're ready. When you and the car are one. What you feel, it feels. What you see, it sees.
Good evening, officers. Carroll Industries welcomes you to our team for the night.
But in a race, there are only two guarantees. There will be a moment when you will start, and one when you will stop. But what lies in between, well, that is where everything is possible.
Gap closing. Van. Point two and closing, gotta push.
I got him.
Thank you. Thank you. So that went live about a week ago on Porsche USA, Porsche Global's accounts, on Instagram, on YouTube, Twitter, and it's been really interesting to see the different ecosystems and the feedback. But all of that was basically funneling into lollipop.racing, which is the site where people could experience for the first time ever when they watched the trailer, they were passively issued digital assets. So we consider what a lot of people talk about like watch to earn, but in this case, it's a very passive experience. You're just logged into as a profile, and you're watching and you're receiving digital assets. Those connect into the ecosystem, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the premise of the show is basically an enigmatic billionaire has invited several racers from all over the world to participate in the Lollipop race, where they will be competing to basically be on the podium. So think professional motorsports, sanctioned, but like an Elon Musk type character, where there's a little bit of a Squid Game component where you may die if you don't win. So what makes Lollipop really unique is that for the first time ever, you have a traditional television series, 10 episodes, 10 races in the show, but simultaneous to that, you have a sidecar experience. And what we mean by that is it's really an opportunity for audiences to engage with the content deeper. And how do they do that? So they do that by buying digital component parts and interactively competing in the race that's simultaneous to the show. So if the characters are racing in Tokyo, the audience who's participating can actually put together their vehicles and participate in a virtual race at the same time. So how does the ecosystem really work, right? So you have these different players, which are the drivers, technical directors, very similar to what you would see in professional motorsports. Those are digital assets. Those are actual player passes that are associated to an audience that buy them. Then you also have the parts. Well, somebody in the audience may have tires, and I may be a driver. So we have to form a team. So we're looking at about 2,000 in total players that make the interactive experience possible. Those people form a team, and then they actually participate in the narrative and interactive experience. So at the top here, you'll see the episodes. This is kind of dictating on a traditional television series. You have the pilot at episode 1, and then you have obviously the last episode. But in between, we're creating this connective tissue that allows the interactive players to participate. So what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. If in episode 2 we say the characters learn that they're going to Tokyo and the cars are going to be transported in the show via freighter to Tokyo, and there's a rogue wave as the cars are moving across the ocean, and those assets, the cars, are lost, the interactive side, when they go to log in to play their role in the Tokyo side, those actual cars are missing from their wallet. So they're obviously like, what do we do? How do we participate? And then the insurance company, that's part of the storytelling, issues them bigger, better, faster cars for the next episode. So we're creating this kind of push-pull dynamic between the interactive audience and the narrative for the first time ever. Now, if your team in the interactive side starts to win, the actors in the show will be talking about your team. So let's say Team Avalanche starts to become the #1 team. The characters in the show will talk about it, and you will feel connected to the content in a whole new dimension. Now you can imagine the ecosystem and how the audience, the value of those assets, so to speak, will be very meaningful to those team members. And so we're doing this across things like tires, suspension, the actual types of cars, and really trying to create an ecosystem that the consumer feels is new and obviously valuable to them in a new experience. So part of the team that's involved is David Ayer. He created The Fast and the Furious. For those cinephiles, he also did Training Day, which was one of my personal favorite films, and most recently Beekeeper. And he is the executive producer and one of the writers of the show. We have Marisha Mukherjee, who's a showrunner. She recently did Halo. She also did Snowpiercer and Heroes, and several others from our visual effects supervisor, Jerome Chen, and Narwhal Studios, which is important because this is a bridge between the virtual components that we build in Unreal and how they actually connect to the show in terms of virtual production. And of course, this wouldn't be possible without Avalanche, as all of the content, the digital assets that we build end up living on our L1, which is on features Subnet. And basically, this is what we call smart content. How do we build content that connects to the blockchain and really builds new partnerships and obviously interactive experiences for the audience? Our other major partner here is Mobile One. So what we're seeing across the board with a lot of brands, and why this is really relevant to today in terms of media, is brands are looking for new ways to connect to audiences. They spend a lot of money in marketing, and they're not really seeing the fruit of that, building an ecosystem that they can reconnect to those audience members. And for them, this was the first time that they would be able to actually have an official title sponsor, but actually have a relationship with every single person that watches the show. Because if they're a fan, then they're building through those digital assets a direct-to-consumer relationship. This obviously excited Mobile One, and then that's what brought on Porsche. Again, trying to be at the cutting edge of innovation, they saw this as an opportunity to associate their brand marks, their premium vehicles, the GT3 RS for those that are fans, GT3R and the GT3 RS, and really foster that community from consumption of content to really building out an ecosystem that they could reconnect with. So Lollipop is being considered now from Porsche the racing franchise of the future. Some big shoes to fill, but really for the first time ever, a community approach to building a racing franchise that starts with episodic content and then bridging audiences to participate and eventually a game. And really, we're trying to ground Lollipop through culture. And the way we're doing that is 10 episodes across 10 cities, where each of those cities will highlight the culture of that city through music, through regional artists, and the actors and talent that are included in that. And the reason we're doing that is we believe that each of these cities will have its own ecosystem, its own community that will want to participate. And we really want to create a series that allows voices to come up. So for example, the art inside of the races, because they're on the streets, those will feature regional artists that'll also be included as drops. So for those that want to collect those pieces in a major, ideally global franchise, you'll be able to acquire the artwork that's included there. So really trying to bring onto the blockchain all of these different components to allow those audiences to connect to the product. My name's Stephen Ilous again, and if you want to connect, here's my Telegram. Happy to dive in a little bit more on what we're building with Lollipop. And thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.